Good morning everyone. In this video I'm going to be analysing the live price action for EU and DXY to see what opportunities may be available today. You're going to see my strategy and my analysis, so if you're interested in those then please stick around. Right, starting off on the daily chart, what can we see on the daily? Well, yesterday we just closed out as a bearish doji, pretty indecisive, some buy side and some sell side liquidity probably taken. However, if I read into the picture of the last few days, it begins to look a lot more corrective. So we had our imbalance and it seems to be possibly we're correctively filling that imbalance. So we may still have a drawdown here, as I mentioned yesterday, but we are also possibly finding some support around this area on the lower time frames, which we'll see. So yeah, rather a corrective pullback in comparison to this bullish move here. The same is visible on DXY, which is our inverse. We've obviously rejected this daily order block so far, and we're having a very corrective pullback, and we had that indecisive bullish doji yesterday. We still have some imbalance to fill as well, so possibly it is going to keep correctively pulling back. Other than this, we still have our high time frame at play, right? We did take the buy side liquidity, we do have that SMC, but it has so far not turned into any bearish real momentum, at least by the looks of the candle sizes on the day. So far today we still have our previous daily highs and lows, sell side and buy side liquidity intact on both DXY and EU, so I don't think there's much more to talk about on the daily. So let's go down to the 4 hour and see what that shows us. So now we're on the 4 hour. You can see we have our bullish leg here. And since this initial bearish move from the highs, it does look to be like we're consolidating in this premium. So we pulled back, mitigated this imbalance up here on the 4 hour. We then came back down and mitigated this imbalance here on the 4 hour. So we're kind of stuck between this point at the moment. We've rejected this imbalance, and just in general, we're just stuck in this consolidation and range. It's building liquidity mostly to the buy side, you would say. We've got high here, high here, high here, right? So it does look like a trend line of buy side liquidity highs when price is possibly ready to go and mitigate those. So I do see that option. Of course, we have this discount POY here, this order block with imbalance, which would be an even better place to go long from. However, price may just hold this area, but it's looking quite indecisive with all of this sideways consolidation. We have yet to make that new low. So we pulled back, mitigated that imbalance, and then respected this low so far. So far we have respected that, failed to make a new low. So nothing clear as of yet in terms of direction, because we've found some support here. Just in terms of a bullish direction, we have that buy side liquidity. And in terms of a bearish direction, of course, we're in a premium and we have our sell side liquidity POYs on a higher time frame. The same can be said on DXY as an inverse. You can see we're in this discount. We pulled back initially, mitigating that 4 hour POY here, and we've just been completely sideways consolidating. We have buy side and sell side liquidity on each side, and you can see we have that obvious sell side liquidity trend line as well, failing to make that higher high above here. We have last taken buy side liquidity, as you can see there, and we have last respected this sell side liquidity POY, as you can see here, taking liquidity from below these lows. So we're aware of those confluences and the higher time frame picture on the 4 hour at least. I think clearly the message is that we need to see more, maybe be a bit more patient with price. However, let's go down to the 1 hour and see if that shows us anything else. So a few more confluences just on the 1 hour. The 1 hour is as you would expect. Of course, we were still consolidating in that higher time frame premium. However, if you go onto the 1 hour now, you see we could possibly read this as we've got that lower low, lower high, and then we're correctively making an internal lower high, lower low, which may, if I just draw this out so it's clear for you, we could see it like this, right? And we may end up making that lower low there. But internally, we are kind of making this lower low here. where we've come up, come down, lower high, lower low, lower high, the lower low may come there. So I hope that's clear. I'm not saying that's exactly what price will definitely do, but that's just me attempting to read this structure. Right, the overall picture would be the first line that we drew, but once we've pulled back here, you can see now that it's an internal to this leg that we're still continuing to make those lower highs, lower lows structures. So that may continue to eventually create that lower low we're looking for to give us a real higher time frame bias. So that's my possible outlook on that 1 hour structure. It's a bit more of a complex pullback there, rather than us just making that low, that lower high, and then a straight lower low. There's some internal complex pullback range going on here. So yeah, nothing is super clear, but I hope that made the structure a bit more clearer for something to add to our bias and to our narrative, because the narrative is important. You can see we're getting some good bearish momentum here, right? So that may actually be playing out now. We failed to obviously make a higher high from this 1 hour POI within this 4 hour imbalance so far. This is all quite corrective. We came up, pretty much filled this 1 hour imbalance. It would have been nice to come into this 1 hour order block as well. However, that's still there, unmitigated. We've left some relative equals highs here, so we may come back up for that, sweep that buy side liquidity and come into this 1 hour POI. But I'm not going to try and read too far into the future, but these are things that we need to keep on our mind, because the buy side liquidity there may be attractive if we pull back up before taking these lows. The same thing is happening, of course, inversely on DXY. Now DXY doesn't have that clear 1 hour POI that we have up here. That was already mitigated and filled. Price has literally just had sideways consolidation. So DXY isn't moving too well, which is obviously why we are consolidating like this. So possible bearish outlook, possible bearish bias for today. However, like I said, we still have these POIs here, and the higher time frame structure is not confirmed yet. It's a bit clearer on the 1 hour compared to the 4 hour. But yeah, a lot of consolidation and a lot of corrective, complex pullback type movement. So again, we're getting this momentum now, which at least gives us some better lower time frame direction. Takeaways from the 1 hour is that possible structure that we're creating with this complex pullback towards discount. We've mitigated that 1 hour and 4 hour imbalance, which currently has failed to produce a higher high. So I still see this low as weak. So this low is currently a weak low within this 1 hour price action. Therefore, price can target that low and we will continue towards this discount. So let's go down to the M15 and see what opportunities may be available today. So on the M15, what do we have here? Now, this price action doesn't actually look bad so far. We've got 5 minutes until this M15 candle closes, and it is leaving behind an order block. So I'm just going to annotate this out for the moment so we can possibly use it for our analysis, right? So this hasn't closed just yet, but more than likely this is going to be an order block here. Now, initial price action. I've drawn in this line here at the top of Asia with the top of London Open. They're pretty much equal highs. Now I may have to check on my broker to see if it was swept, but this does look like equal highs here, which price usually likes to target. So I'm going to discuss that if we close here as a sweep and price pulls back up, I would be very wary that price is going to come for this other side of Asia. One, because that goes with the daily cycle of one side of Asia being swept and then the other side of Asia being mitigated. But two, because they are equal highs, price likes to sweep equal highs a lot of the time. And then above that is a 1 hour POI price draw, which is also an M15 order block. Okay, so we have an M15 order block, which is a 1 hour order block, relatively equal highs as inducement below that, and would have the daily cycle bias if we sweep this low here. So with that in mind, that would be negatives for this possible trade. So it may make this type of trade high risk. So if we put this here as a break of structure, momentum, right? We didn't quite get that sweep, so it takes away some of the validity of this order block because I'd prefer the sweep, but internally on the 5 minute, there's definitely an internal buy side liquidity sweep here. So if we were to now get this pullback here and the entry above the NY daily open to go down to target that week low, this all looks very good on the M15, okay, in my opinion. Stop loss just above the highs. So you could very well take this trade. However, it definitely has a higher risk aspect to it. We have our inducement possibly around this area during the pullback. So corrective pullback, some inducement here possibly, M15 order block, with order flow, with direction of the higher time frame, targeting that week low, break of structure possibly. I mean, it does look like it's closing out as a sweep. That's the first initial thing we can see. Of course, it's not closing in a favorable way, so it may not be worth taking, but that is definitely a lower time frame play that looks like it matches strategy. I personally would probably ignore that or wait for a continuation, especially if we close out as a sweep here, because we're also sweeping on DXY. So it makes this a lot more inviting here. So that is the short scenario one. And I think my bias for today so far will be shorts, at least until we take more sell side liquidity. As I said, if we want to make sure that this is valid and going to hold, there's definitely a continuation if it happens, right? So if we pull back here and it plays out, and then now we break this low here, we could break below this low and pull back to another order block on the lower time frame to also trade down with, right? So we could have that within here. It might happen on the 5 minute, it might happen on the 15 minute. So we could possibly get that continuation from this break of structure around here. So I hope that's clear. If it does create a corrective pullback and then breaks a low within and then pulls back again, you could possibly ride that wave. There's also negatives to continuations, right? It may give you confidence that that is the direction. We've confirmed this POI here. We've had a second break of structure. We've pulled back to a POI and we're targeting these lows. So that may be the safer option. Now, having removed all that, let's talk about trading using those negatives, right? So all of this is pretty much a corrective price action. We now have inducement for what is up here in M15 order block. So this also could look like a trade if we pull back. So we've got an M15 order block, we've got a possible corrective pullback overnight, we have a 15-minute leg showing that we're bearish for the day, we have like our bearish narrative and bias, this lovely inducement here, a week low. It's very possible that this M15 area here could hold, right? Stop loss just above the highs, inducement, corrective pullback, and just target the lows. There's nothing that would suggest this would be invalid to go for. Everything would be the same. We have our inducement here for these relative equal highs. We've swept the lows of Asia, so we'd be a lot more safer up here. So I think this is very valid. We would come down on DXY, also sweeping sell side liquidity on our side. So we'd have buy side and sell side liquidity on our side to be used as inducement. We may even get some divergence because DXY possibly take its previous daily low for some sell side liquidity. Our highs could stay intact. We never know. So we'll see what happens. But I think for me personally, those are the opportunities for me. I think the bearish bias is just a bit more clear. The initial opportunity could still be valid, but we definitely have a lot of negatives, and this could possibly be a very good trade to trade above that if you've got the patience. So I hope you gained value from that. I hope everything was clear. Any questions, let me know in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.